Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to be answering a question that I get right often, and that is, can I use my Glock BB gun for self-defense? Stick around. This is a great question to be asking because you can own a Glock CO2 Gen 3 gun for about 75 to 80 bucks, and a lot of people are wondering how powerful this thing would be if they needed to defend themselves. I do these tests for people all around the world because not everybody can carry a pistol in public. Not everybody can even own guns. There are parts of the world where you can't even own a gun. So I like to be diverse with regards to weapons and self-defense and options that we discuss. I always like to drop this as a disclaimer. If you live somewhere where you can legally carry a firearm, it's in your best interest to learn how to shoot, to learn how to handle an actual firearm and carry that. It's going to give you the stopping power that you're looking for. And maybe carry a blade as a backup and something like pepper spray for non-lethal defense. But if you can't carry an actual firearm, it's good to explore the other option. Now, there's two types of self-defense. Self-defense in the home and self-defense outside of the home, but this experiment's going to speak for both. This is really not the first video in this series of questions. I initially got the CO2 pistol and reviewed it. A few months later, I tested it out against a coconut and it failed miserably. It didn't even put a scratch. But in all fairness, that's kind of a strict test. A coconut is very hard. It's almost as hard as a skull. Most people already know and understand that your average BB gun flying at about 425 feet per second is not going to go through a skull. But we know a well-placed shot to the eye or just somewhere in the face, could sting and be a bit incapacitating if it hit just right or if it hit hard enough. And I think that's what a lot of people want to know. So today we're going to be looking at a couple of different tests. I'm going to look at plywood and I'm going to look at a water bottle. You may say, a water bottle, that's nothing. Well, I will tell you from shooting slingshots that a water bottle is not as easy to bust as like a can, for example. The water bottle's got some give and it's a little bit thicker skinned. All right, the first experiment that I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot at plywood. Now, I've got a splatter target taped to the piece of plywood. We're going to see what we can do. I have a brand new CO2 tank in the pistol as well. I'm going to be shooting at the bottom right-hand side of this because I've went shooting the other day and used the top part of it. I'm going to shoot at the bottom. We're going to see what we can do. So all three of the pellets just bounced off the plywood. It didn't come back too fast, but it did just bounce right off of it. Let's take a look at the dent. So there's the dent that it put in the plywood. A nice little smack, but it was nowhere near being able to come through the whole thing. Now, from looking at the dent in this plywood, I do believe it would make a definitive break in the skin. All right, so I'm a little bit closer this time. I'm only about 6 feet away. I've got some safety glasses on at this range for sure. Let's see if we can go through. Once again, even at this very close range, the BB was not able to penetrate the plywood all the way through. Now I'm going to shoot at a water bottle. It's easy to bust a can. You can bust a can with a clay round from a slingshot. Cans bust very easily. Water bottles don't bust quite as easily. It did tear through that water bottle. And it did tear through, I think, 2 ends. Kinda, but it did tear it. There we go. It ripped through the front and kind of nicked the back, so pretty good shot. So let's get down to my conclusion, and then you can come to your own as well based on the information that I've given you. You're wanting to know whether or not this Glock CO2 is good for self-defense. There's no question as to whether or not this would be dangerous hitting somebody in the eye. And there's no question as to whether or not this is going to sting if you get hit with it. And, you do have about 15 rounds in this magazine that you could continue to sting with. It's not going to be pleasant for the attacker. But let's not kid ourselves. It's not going to do a whole lot of damage. It's mainly going to buy you some time. If you're looking for something to drop somebody, this is not what you need to get. Yes, it put a dent in the plywood and it tore through a water bottle, which represents a really good sting. but there's not going to be any stopping power. And if you're just looking for something to distract them long enough for you to get away, it's very possible that this could work because you have a lot of chances. You have 15 rounds, and if you're carrying around a full CO2 tank, it would hurt. I would not just stand there and let you shoot me with this. I'm going to be dancing. And please know that if this would have gone all the way through the plywood, I would be making a much different assessment. And I think the plywood is a good in-between from something like the water bottle and the coconut. I think you've got, you know, 3 different targets all representing, you know, light, medium, and heavy. It went through the light target. It put a little dent in the medium target, just a little dent, and it didn't even scratch the heavy target. It didn't even phase the coconut. So that's my final assessment. I think if this is all you have, you're probably going to sting the assailant, maybe buy yourself some time, but you're not going to stop him. You're not going to have a lot of time before he recovers. That's pretty much the conclusion that I would come to, unless you just catch him in the eye, but you better be a good shot. But I've got to tell you that the Glock 19 CO2 gun is not something that I would try to defend myself with. I use mine to train in firearm mechanics when I'm not at the range. Thanks for watching. Take care.